The Art of War was written over 2,000 years ago, but can explain why you suck at so many things. While it's a very literal book, mostly meant to educate the reader on both the broad and the specifics of warfare, the odds are low that you personally will ever command an army. If you are by chance currently the commander of some military force, you should probably go to West Point or something instead of getting your tactics from some stranger on YouTube. This is TLDR. Too lazy didn't read. I read it, so you don't have to. While women selling themselves for money is often considered the oldest profession, I would say that violence really gives it a run for its money. Nonetheless, statistically speaking, there is less warfare today than there was in past times, going back to nearly any period in human recorded history. While humanity is certainly not perfect and there are always ongoing military conflicts, hopefully this trend continues. But noting this, the odds of you being an actual combatant, let alone a military commander of forces, are slim, and unless nuclear war puts us back technologically a couple of millennia, you're probably never going to command the types of troops that are described by Sun Tzu in The Art of War. Still, some of the topics of discussion do hold value to the doughy YouTuber viewer of the current day. Master Sun's wisdom can be applied to modernity in topics such as professional negotiations, strategic social relationship management, sports, leadership, understanding current political and military events, and my favorite, video game strategy. There are way too many individual pieces of advice throughout the book to provide you with a sensible summary of each of them, so I'm going to be touching on a few of the compiled lists of precepts that Master Sun puts forth, as well as a couple of my other favorites sprinkled throughout for good measure. Honestly, though, he's got so many amazing and applicable one-liners, so check out my notes in the description below for an overview of some of them and the pages they can be found on. We don't know too much about Sun Tzu from this book in particular, for it's a book of precepts and not really an autobiography, but the introduction does give us some insights into the type of man that the author is. Personally, I'm not sure if the first section is truth or apocryphal, but he starts by describing how a king sends for him, asking if he can train an army of women the same as he trains an army of men. In observation of brevity, we'll skip some of the finer details, but just know that he ends up beheading two of the king's favorite concubines when the women don't heed his commands. Man, I hate it when that happens. After that, they all listen willingly, and Sun claims that they will now do anything commanded of them. The first two lessons gleaned from this passage can be summarized as a leader should be able to clearly communicate their expectations and swiftly make an example of those who are belligerent towards them. Apparently, good humor is an important trait as well, for even amidst the beheading of the king's favorite concubines, Sun seems rather cheery about the whole situation. And that was just the introduction. Full steam ahead to Chapter 1, Master Sun gives us his first list of advice, saying that the art of war is governed by 5 factors, which, to paraphrase, include if the army will follow its leader, the climate, the topological factors, the virtue of force, and the management of the army's subdivisions. He notes an additional 7 questions about these 5 factors that will allow anybody to forecast victory or defeat of a particular engagement. The next piece of advice centers more around the economic effects to a country at war, explaining that the upkeep of an army is expensive and no country benefits from long warfare. He even says, to quote, "In war, then, let your great object be victory, not lengthy campaigns." You don't know how many League of Legends games I've thrown just because I simply enjoy dragging out the game when I'm winning. I guess I could take a lesson from this. Moving on to a more practical aspect of conquering, he says, the best thing of all is to take the enemy's country whole and intact. To shatter and destroy it is not so profitable. Wise words, while through modern propaganda countries may claim they are morally justified in war, the root cause of many conflicts is just resources and wealth. But how do you know if you're actually going to win a confrontation? Here are 5 paraphrase keys to victory from Master Sun. 1. Know when to fight and when to run. 2. Know how to handle superior and inferior forces. 3. Have an army who is unified in spirit, not divided. 4. Be prepared to take the enemy unprepared. And 5. Win with military might, but don't let a foolish king interfere. Master Sun goes on to say, and again I quote, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself, but not the enemy, for every victory gained, suffer defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle." To put a few different quotes together, he additionally says, the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. A good fighter can secure himself against defeat, but cannot make certain of defeating the enemy. Additionally, one may know how to conquer without being able to do it. Avoidance of mistakes establishes the certainty of victory. Hence, the skillful fighter puts himself into a position which makes defeat impossible and does not miss the moment of defeating the enemy. The next list provided by Master Sun is a list of what he describes as the 5 dangerous faults: recklessness, which leads to destruction; cowardice, which leads to capture; a hasty temper that can be provoked by insults; a delicacy of honor that is sensitive to shame; over solicitude of his men, which exposes him to worry and to trouble. In addition, there are 6 severe calamities laid out, described not as from natural causes, but as by the fault of the leader. 1, the flight of the army; 2, the subordination of the army; 3, the ruin of the army; 4, the disorganization of the army; and 5, the routing of the army. But how does someone command an army well? Master Sun outlines how to treat your subordinates correctly, noting that they first must like you before you punish them, and you must punish those who don't obey you. However, once you are liked and respected, your men will obey your commands even to their death. The final piece of wisdom that we'll go over today has to do with a lack of knowledge and patience, and to paraphrase Master Sun, you shouldn't attack unless you see an advantage or something to be gained. Don't fight unless you must, and don't fight just to see what happens. To continue along with that thought, he also explains that armies will fight to the death when cornered. This can be used for your own army's tactical advantage and ferocity, but also notes that leaving your enemy an escape route can still secure you an objective without sacrificing your own resources while you fight them to the death. Again, there are hundreds of amazing and applicable precepts in this book, but since you're probably already getting ready to swipe to the next video, what's my ultimate TLDR of this book? Know yourself and know the enemy. Understand the conditions in which a confrontation will occur. Be an authentic but firm leader. Be patient so as to let the enemy make their own mistakes. This was TLDR. Too lazy, didn't read. I read it, so you don't have to. Be sure to like and subscribe, and check out my description below for a link to the book on Amazon and a list of the rest of my notes from the book. Comment your favorite precepts from the video, and let me know which of your favorites I've left out, and I'll catch you next time.